Hey everyone. So I decided to start up videos again for this admission. It makes things a lot easier for us to be able to share with you, and it takes some stress off of me from having to sit down and try to create a big old long post every night. So I'm making this video while Paige is doing her nose rinses for the night. So you're gonna have to excuse me if I'm a little distracted, but the goal is to kind of run everyone through what happened to get us here, because this admission is proving to be a little bit different than admissions prior to it. So Paige had clinic on February 19th, and at that clinic she was doing pretty well. She had done really great on her PFTs, which is the abbreviation for her lung function test. It's actually short for pulmonary function test. So if you ever hear me say PFTs, you'll know. And we made just a couple small changes in meds and everything was wonderful. So not this past Monday, but the Monday before, you're going to have to forgive me because I don't have dates in front of me, but she developed a little bit of a cough, and we were a little bummed, but thought maybe, it's just something residual. We had gotten the news that her culture results, her throat swab, had grown Stenotropomonas and Stenomalt for short, and staph. She colonizes staph, so we see that on every culture. It's nothing new. Stenomalt, she has grown on and off for many years now. It tends to take a big toll on her lungs whenever she is growing it, and so it's something we watch closely. She also grew a bacteria that we'd never heard of before. We had to Google it. Not just me, but her clinic professionals as well had to do some research on it. And it wasn't a bacteria that we really had to worry about, so we didn't think much of it. And we kept that in the back of our mind as her cough continued to develop and become stronger. So she ran an elevated body temperature of just 100 degrees and a 0.3, 0.6, kind of that range. A true fever is a fever of 101.5 or higher. So anything below that, I just call an elevated body temperature because it's what it is. So we reached out to clinic and touched base with Paige's clinic nurse, and we continued to monitor the situation. Paige's treatments increased to 4 times a day. So she was doing a vest therapy of 30 minutes every 4 hours in combination with an albuterol treatment. And we thought she was starting to do a little bit better. So we were pretty reassured. And then Sunday came, and Sunday she started to spike actual fevers. So her fever never got above 101.6 for the most part. And I don't know if it would have gotten higher or not, but I had to start using ibuprofen to help reduce some of the inflammation Paige was feeling in her body. Her cough had gotten exponentially worse. Her sinuses, we know, were inflamed. It was giving her a lot of headaches. She was absolutely miserable. And we reached out to her clinic nurse again, and we're scheduled to come into clinic on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. And we came to clinic. She had been coughing up terrible looking mucus for a few days, and large amounts of it, as you've no doubt seen from my Facebook posts. And we were not surprised whenever we saw that her lung function had dropped from about 120% of her predicted. I'm looking at my notebook here, my handy notebook that I just carry around all the time and keep notes in and things. So her lung function had dropped from about 120, 110 of some sort down to 88% of her predicted. So that's a massive drop in lung function, especially for Paige. And It triggered a very in-depth and serious conversation with her doctor. So since it had been many weeks since Paige had been on antibiotics, we're going to pause here because Paige needs to talk to me. I know, sweetheart. It's because the pick is still fresh. And it's because you haven't been moving it much. Okay.
I haven't really even been because of the way it's placed.
I know. We'll work on that. Okay, you got some ibuprofen just a little bit ago. Let that kick in and see if it'll help.
Well, like 3 hours or so ago. Cause she gave me some because my hand was bloody.
It was about 8 o'clock. So it's only been about an hour. Yeah.
Well, the other day. After
Okay.
sometime after I woke up.
I'll double check with her just in case. She'll be in a minute, okay? Go ahead and work on your nose rinses. That's fine. You can leave that there. So we had the option to do to do oral antibiotics from home. It had been several weeks since we had done antibiotics, and she'd had a really great reaction to those antibiotics, and that was what had prompted the February clinic visit, if I'm recalling correctly, was her getting off those antibiotics and feeling better from the last cold that she'd had some time beforehand. So we talked about that, and then we talked about the fact that she could be admitted because her PFTs have sunk so low. We asked Paige what she wanted to do, and Paige voted for admission, and her doctor and I had talked things over, and we had discussed the fact that Paige has begun showing some resistance to an antibiotic that we would typically use to treat her. And when we say that she's shown a resistance, that means that the bacteria that is found in her lungs is no longer as sensitive to the antibiotics we typically treat with. Her body itself hasn't developed a resistance to the drug, just the bacteria. So we decided that given how sick she was, given that she wanted to be admitted, given that we want to try to prevent any more resistances from building, and also given the fact that she is allergic to an entire class of antibiotics, we decided that we needed to go ahead and do the admission and give her the best possible options for treatment that we could. So we went home and we came up here to the hospital on Thursday, yesterday. And we got here and did a chest x-ray, and that chest x-ray showed that she had a pneumonia in the lower left lobe of her lung. Just a second. Yes, ma'am.
The day before yesterday.
That was Wednesday. That was when clinic was.
Thursday is when we came up here. It's Saturday.
No, today's Friday.
Oh. Hospital brain's kicking in.
It's okay. So I was obviously scared of the pneumonia. Paige has never had a pneumonia before. And I had a couple misconceptions about pneumonia, I learned. And in this instance, if I understand correctly, again, if there's any error here, it is mine entirely. The doctors have done their best to educate me. And at this point, between exhaustion, I'm doing my best. So those of you medical professionals on my friends list, I will not be offended if you jump in and tell me if I've got any of this wrong. But a pneumonia, especially in Paige's case, is a buildup of inflammation in a concentrated form in the tissues of her lungs. So we can see it on x-ray because it is a place that is a little bit more white in a place that should be dark. And we know that it is a small area right now. It's nothing big. But we're going to keep an eye on it because it is a serious issue. So it's not changing the way that we're treating Paige. We are still treating her with 2 antibiotics. One is called Nafcillin, and the other is standard Bactrim, just in IV antibiotic form. So typically, love you. So typically, Bactrim is oral for Paige, and she does great on it. She's used Bactrim for her entire life to treat these infections, but we went with the IV route this time for it to help it be more effective, because it is one of those antibiotics that she could very easily build a resistance to. And so we want to give it in the most efficient form, and that is with IVs. So the nafcillin is a type of penicillin, so pretty simple there. And both of these together are very targeted to treat her staph and her cynomolds. Next, we ran labs, and the labs are showing that Paige's alkaline phosphates are incredibly high. So typically, we don't see them this high. Her current value, when we first did it, was 6,000. That's kind of freaky. And when we repeated that lab today, it was at 5,600. So still incredibly high. So we're going to do a couple things for that. Tomorrow she's going to get a liver ultrasound done to check her liver function. We're not overly worried, because we believe that since her other liver levels are not too high, her liver may be okay. However, we are going to check her bones. Cystic fibrosis can have some secondary effects on bone structure and density and things like that. Not bone structure, bone density. Again, exhaustion and just overwhelm here. So we are going to do a bone scan and check her bones and see how they are doing, and we're going to go from there. We are consulting with an endocrinologist. He will probably be by sometime tomorrow to introduce himself and give us his thoughts on this. But in the meantime, we're going to hit this testing pretty hard. It looks like we're also going to be sending some labs out to the Mayo Clinic to see what they think. And again, we're going to go from there. So her PICC line was placed today, and it went pretty smoothly. The doctor did tell me that she's building a tolerance for propofol, which is the drug that they use to sedate people for PICC lines. And so about halfway through her PICC procedure, she started to wake up. And instead of giving propofol, the doctor switched to Versed, which is, if I am understanding correctly, an anti-anxiety medication, and it helped Paige go back to sleep. And she slept through the procedure. She doesn't have any memory of anything. And she did sleep a little extra afterwards, which was good because she was really tired. She also started coughing pretty hard whenever she was trying to wake up, and she actually coughed up some mucus that had been sitting down in her upper airways and really giving her some trouble all morning. So some good did come of it, of course. So other than that, the PICC line's good. She's doing nose rinses now, and we're going to work on getting her as healthy as we can to go from here. So I will update you guys as more things continue to develop on her. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, of course, because everybody else is talking about it, is the coronavirus. So give me just a second. So real quick on the coronavirus, because I don't want to talk on this long, but the hospital has initiated some precautions, just like everybody else is right now, and I wanted to share those with you. So Paige cannot have any visitors under the age of 16 currently, and personally, we're asking that no visitors come up. We need to make sure she stays as germ-free as she can right now, especially with all of these issues that are already plaguing her. We don't need any new germs or bacterias, and currently COVID-19 is not in Columbia. Hopefully it stays that way, and we're just going to be safe there. The hospital is also limiting volunteers. They're not going to be coming into her room to play or to see if she needs anything. We also are not going to have any junior doctors in the room and any non-necessary medical staff, which is reassuring to us because it does help limit the exposure. We're also not going to be on the main floor doing laps like we do every year. Up until this last year, Paige was only admitted once a year. So if memory serves, I believe this is our 5th admission since late 2018. I'll have to look into that. But the hospital is also limiting things in other ways, and I'm really impressed with the level of care they're taking so far. We are also personally deciding not to give out the link for the cards, the e-cards that we usually do for Paige, and it's kind of a bummer because we love to see her walls covered, and we know that all of our friends and family love sending those cards. But because those cards have to be printed and handled, who knows how many times before they get to us, again, that's risking a germ exposure, so we're going to limit that. And other than that, I don't believe there's much that's directly affecting us or many changes that we're going to make for right now. We're going to try to make this hospital stay as typical as we can. There are some people that are thinking that this admission may last a little bit longer because of the pneumonia, but I have not heard that directly from her doctor, and until I hear that directly from her doctor, I'm not going to stress over it. And it's the same thing with the coronavirus / COVID-19. There's a lot of panic in the world right now, and I've been talking to some of our friends here at the hospital, and I know I'm not crazy when I say that there really is a big need for people to calm down and take a deep breath. So as a parent of a child with special needs, medically special needs, we are used to germ prevention and control measures. So Germ-Xing our hands, washing our hands, trying to not touch our face, and trying to avoid public gatherings, especially this time of year, are things that we're used to doing. And they work very well, typically, and they're going to be sufficient for this. We actually have a problem at the hospital right now, at least on this floor, with people stealing boxes of masks, face masks. Yeah. The hospital keeps little shelves, so to speak, at every so often down each of the hallways, and twice today people have stolen entire boxes of masks out of those, and Paige's medical professionals have had to go hunt down masks from other little shelves down the hallways. And so that's kind of frustrating. And I also know of another mother of a child with cystic fibrosis who is having trouble finding a mask for her daughter just to wear for everyday use right now, because everyone has bought all the masks at Walmart and Sam's Club and wherever else you would typically find face masks, including the fancy masks that Paige wears that are VOG masks. And there's not a need for that. If you are not medically compromised or you're not caring for somebody who is sick, a mask is not going to help. It's just not. The best thing you can do is wash your hands and not touch your face. And because people are overreacting in that capacity, it's impacting those people who really do need those resources. So if that is one sure thing I can pass to people, it's to stay calm and take it seriously, but you don't have to hoard supplies or buy a lot of things right now. It is scary. There is cause for concern, but even here in the hospital, there's not people wearing masks all over the place. Our doctor was in Walmart the day before. She's like, wash your hands, Germ-X after you touch the keypad, at the checkout. She said, you're going to be okay. Take a deep breath.
Don't know what David said about that call that was talking about John's neck things. You're like,
oh, yeah. Paige is talking about a funny video that, funny story, I guess, that we were told by somebody who saw a video about a woman that was trying to educate people on germ control and about not touching your face with your hands and things. I guess she was flipping through the papers that she was reading off of, and she licked her thumb to flip the paper. And just, no. Anyway, so here at the hospital, it is pretty much business as usual, with the exception of those few things I talked about. I'm usually trying not to put myself in a position where I'm relaying information like this. But you do. You can see Paige still has some spunk right now. But she doesn't know how to stop. But anyway, because everybody has a concern about cystic fibrosis and coronavirus or COVID-19, or because everybody in general is just talking about it all the time right now, I thought I'd be brave and kind of pass a few things on to you from life in the hospital during admission. So when her doctor tells me to worry, I'll worry. But right now we're just following the guidance of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and we're just taking things a step at a time and a day at a time. She still runs down the hallway to get popsicles from the refrigerator, and we're still keeping the door open to her room. It does help that we're at the end of a hallway this time, so we are. You're making the camera focus on your face.
I don't care.
So we're still proceeding as normal right now, as much as we possibly can. So I'll keep you guys updated on Paige, as always, as things develop. Hopefully we'll have some more answers tomorrow. And in the meantime, we thank you guys for praying and loving us and looking after all of us. If you do want to share your thoughts with Paige, you can definitely post them on my wall or send me a message. Memes and virtual cards, and
you might want to blow out your name tag after this.
They know my name.
No, but the name tag.
They know where we are.
Still.
They know my face.
Still.
I don't need to blur it out. Anyway, virtually that you want to reach out and share with Paige, we're definitely open to that. She also is open to FaceTiming a lot of people. So
we were supposed to FaceTime Aizen, but we never did that.
We can do that. So if you are somebody who has been in our life that Paige knows and has met, if you just want to reach out to her that way, chat with her, maybe text message or video, you're more than welcome to do that, because she obviously has a lot to say. So
it's funny how you talk
anyway,
about that and you have a cystic fibrosis book right there.
I do. My camera's propped up on some books. So anyway, there's all of that in like a 20-ish minute video. So
an hour long.
This video is just super long because I wanted to catch you guys up on a lot of things at one time. So I will try to not get behind on the updates again. It's just kind of moved fast and we're a little exhausted here.
Mom,
so
I
anyway.
have 2 things to tell you.
Do you want to tell the camera?
No. No. Lost Batman. Second, Fat Amy.
We just got done watching Pitch Perfect. Of course. Anyway, we're going to get off here. She's going to actually do her nose rinses instead of playing around. Did you finish?
Yeah.
How many did you do?
2.
2? Well, we usually do 4.
Almost out.
Anyway, okay. I'll see you guys later.
Batman.
Bye.